Good morning. Thank you very much for tuning in. I am Yori Folari. Okay, the election is tomorrow. We've been speaking about this, all of this week, as a matter of fact. But then again, it's because it's important. Well, our guest this morning on the same subject matter, countdown to Ondo Governorship election, is Cynthia Mbamalu, Director of Programs at IAGA Africa. Thank you very much, Cynthia. Thank you very much for making time for us this morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Yes.
Good morning. Yori Folari in studio here. Okay. Now, maybe we've heard that all the sensitive materials have been delivered and that everything seems hunky-dory, everybody's ready. But it's good to have an independent viewpoint. Does this tally with your findings, and since you also are observing very keenly what's going on there?
Well, yeah, at least what we can confirm was as at yesterday, which was the 14th of November, sensitive materials were deployed or dispatched from the central bank here and from the capital down to the local government areas. And the deployment plan is usually moves from the capital and is deployed to the INEC offices at the local government areas. And then from today, the materials will be sent to the racks. So what we're currently observing now is the deployment of materials to the racks, that is the registration area centers, or what you call wards. Now, the materials would be sent there and then they would be moved to the personnel material, though both the INEC officials, security ought to be there, and then the materials, that's where they would sleep tonight, and then in the morning, the dispatch would then be done to the polling unit. Okay. And so currently, what we are observing, because we have observers in the different local governments, and we have our working group also. After this, I would also be going to some local governments to see how that process is going on.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that overview there. So it does seem that everything is in the right place. Security, the police, have been quite enthusiastic about making sure that this is going to be an election devoid of any sort of hanky-panky. From midnight to night, there will be no further entry into Ondo State, and amidst other arrangements. Your comments.
Well, this is usually the plan in every election, especially the off-circle state elections. And so for our observation, yes, normally these restrictions begin tonight. And the idea is to limit undue interference with the electoral process. The police have also said they are going to deploy. Yesterday, I was on a program with the Commissioner of Police, and he did mention that their personnel that will be deployed have been trained. But as observer groups, one of our major calls to the police is one, as the coordinating security agency, and when it comes to election security, we expect that every official deployed in the respective security from the respective security agencies are one, professional in their conduct, that they are deployed early. If you think about some of the previous observations from previous elections, one challenge had been that when the Electoral Commission is ready to move, the security is not available. And once there is no security on ground, they can't move to the polling units, which is why sometimes you have late commencement in some locations. And so for these elections, our major call to the police and the security agencies is to please be readily available for the deployment of materials and personnel, especially tomorrow morning when we need early commencement. In Ondo 2022, areas like Ilaje and Esodu had late commencement. And we're hoping that this time around, those logistics issues will be sorted, but we need the security to be part of that. The other for us is impartiality. Security is very important in this election. So it's not just about the police giving their rules and saying this is what ought to be and what not ought to be. What we want to see is action, because for us, commitment is observable action. What's your commitment to electoral integrity is based on what your personnel would do in the field. And so we're hoping that for these elections, one test to be assessing the election is the level of impartiality of the security, that they remain impartial, throughout the process, especially at the point of collation, that there is undue they do not have interference with the process. Their role is to secure the process, allow accredited observers, accredited media to observe every process of the elections, and also protect and secure the INEC officials that will be in the field. I believe that that is the paramount role of the security agencies. And then when it comes to arrest, we're hoping that in these elections, because we've seen a lot of vote buying going on, or voter inducement in the pre-election phase, we want to see a lot more arrests these elections, because vote buying cannot be a thing in our elections. So we want to also see that they are also arresting miscreants or those who are interested or those who are going out to buy votes for these elections.
Well, thank you very much, Cynthia, because this is a point that we brought up with, especially, well, most of the people we spoke with were APC supporters. We tried as we would, for whatever reason, the PDP side of town, they weren't too enthusiastic to take up our offer. So we did bring up this whole matter about money in the election, vote buying, and what they thought. And what they were telling us, so that's why I'm very interested that you have spoken about this, was that this is not something that they have observed, and this is not something that they in any way, shape, or form condone, would even encourage. So it's interesting when you were saying that that is Yaga Africa, has actually observed, has actually observed some untoward incidents in this regard. Would you like to elaborate, please?
Yes, and we did observe in our pre-elections phase buying of voter inducement. In fact, I want to actually highlight some of the local governments where we specifically observed disbursement of between 2,000 naira to 5,000 naira, and it's not done by just one party. So this is not even about pointing out to one party. It was done by both the APC and the PDP. And we observed in locations like Odibo, Idonre, Akoko Northeast, Irele, Ilaje, Okitipupa, Owo, Akoko Southwest, Ondo East, Eseodo, Ifedore, Akoko Southeast, Akoko Northwest, and Akure South. That is a large percentage. We're comparing that we have only 18 local governments in the state. If you count this number, you can see it's almost everywhere. And so I understand parties wanting to absolve themselves from liability or responsibility, but it's actually an electoral offense to buy votes or to give out cash or not just cash, food items and other things. Because for us, if you want to be a philanthropist or charity, you can do charity before elections. But when you're giving out things and you're giving it out with the intention that this would get you votes, it's no longer charity. If you're a person of faith, whether Christian or Muslim or any religion you rely on, when they talk about charity, is that you're giving without an expectation for anything in return. And so for us, you may term those things as philanthropy, but we know it's not, because of the nature at which it is given out, the nature these monies are given out, the nature these gift items are given out. And honestly, what it has done is it has made our elections so transactional that you now have voters who will not even vote until they see who will come to buy their votes. We were in Edo, in some locations, we even had people who were coming to complain to observers that this party promised us 5,000, now they want to give us 2,000, they're shortchanging us. You can imagine.
Can you believe
that we've gotten
it?
to this part that people are not even afraid to complain to observers. And one of our board members had to look and say, you're not meant to even collect money. It's your right, vote. This is you exercising your choice. And they will tell you, like, there is hunger in the land, there's economic hardship, and these politicians, this is the only time you see them. So what we've had is, one, because of our history of bad governance and poor leadership, the people are impoverished. There's hunger in the land, yes? I don't like to use hunger as a justification for bad conduct, but I also believe that there's a point of responsibility, and our politicians are leveraging this current situation rather than pushing for policies and governmental actions that would uplift the people from poverty and hunger. The focus is save a lot of resources, and during elections, use that to win or garner votes. So now we have elections won by people who have bought votes. So the question is, if you've won an election, but basically all the votes you received were mostly bought, what is the value of your legitimacy? And I think politicians and our candidates and political parties need to reassess themselves. when it comes to elections. So yes, we got these reports. We had long-term observers deployed across the 18 local governments for over a period of 2 months, and they were sending us reports from activities happening in their communities. Let's bear in mind that some transfers we could not track because there were some that we got reports that it was online transfers, like cash transfers.
Yes.
So it's what we could even report were those where we saw cash,
Physical
cash
raw
issuance.
cash. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So those were the places we could report. And so we are hoping that on elections day, that there is some level of decorum. Our elections cannot become a commercial event. It honestly is about our democracy, and we need voters to vote based on their choices and their preferences, and vote based on parties that present the good policies that would change our economic situation, our security situation, and even make development a reality for the people of Ondo State.
It's significant that you said this is not even just about one or the other party. It was a more general thing. It's like people have, and unfortunately, it's the candidates themselves or their party or their
the party supporters. Yes, especially
yes.
both APC and PDP. That's why I said it's not about one or the other, because our report indicated both parties especially.
Oh dear. Now, as you've just said, a lot of us also are thinking in those terms of either APC or PDP when it comes to the Ondo election. But there are actually 15 other parties. So let me just ask, any activity or what's the sense you get? Because people will say that 17 parties are taking part in this election, even though the front runners are the incumbent APC and the PDP. What are you observing regarding the activities of those other 15 other parties?
Well, if we're being honest, from the assessment of the campaigns, in fact, the Electoral Commission updated us last week that one of the parties, NRM, got a court order and they've been added as part of the party. So I think it's about 18 now.
Okay.
That was an update from the stakeholders meeting last week with the Electoral Commission. But the thing is, if we, for multi-party democracies, and it's not just peculiar to Nigeria, there's a likelihood of a dominance of two parties in multi-party democracies. I give examples of the US. The US has over close to 1,000 plus parties, but you always hear of the Democrats and the Republicans. There's a Tea Party. There's so many other parties that exist there. Same also if you go to Ghana and several countries. So yes, we need to acknowledge that there's a likelihood for the dominance of two. But are there other parties engaging? Yes, I know part of what we also track is parties like the Labour Party. The Labour Party, we observed that there were also campaigns ongoing, even before the news update some days ago about the candidates for the party. But we also had some other parties. The challenge is their ability to canvass across the local government. Because one of the things we track is parties that are covering at least 2/3 of the local government in the state. Because, to win elections, to win governorship elections, you need to secure a minimum of 25% of the votes in 2/3 of the local government areas.
That's right.
And so, yes, you have some parties who may be very active in one local government. So you go to a local government, you may see the flyer of one of the parties. But the bigger question is, in most of the locations, the parties we saw, honestly, we had more of APC and PDP. There was Labour Party, there was SDP, observed also, that had their campaigns ongoing in different locations.
Okay.
A lot of the other parties were not in as many local governments as you would expect. But I think it's all about how the parties also build and organize ahead of an elections. One thing we've learned in Nigeria's election is for political parties, you have to build and start early because politics is local. And if any party wants to contest, especially as important as an office of a governor, you need to begin early and engage at the community and local level because a lot of the votes are determined by the rural voters. And so it's beyond just Akure. Most likely you see a lot of the parties flyers in Akure. But for us, we go beyond the LGAs that border the capital and across the different locations to see how parties are engaging and penetrating. And I think that is where a lot of work needs to be done by political parties. It's good to have because sometimes voters tell you their choices are limited. It's either one or the other. And it's good to give voters a lot of choice so that they can really engage and see what kinds of options they have. But that is dependent on the parties because honestly, for elections in Nigeria, especially for executive, for state assembly or House of Reps or senatorial, you can focus in one region. But for governorship elections, like I mentioned, anyone that wants to really win governorship elections, you don't just need to win majority of the votes. You need to have that spread.
In two-thirds.
At least 2/3 of the local governments of the yes. You need to have that spread.
Okay.
And so if your campaigns, you're not having the spread, it also informs how the elections would go.
Okay. Let me thank you. Mr. Afere in Warri, thank you very much for holding on. Please go ahead now with your comment, observation, or report for that matter.
No, Kuyori.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Good morning to your guests there.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you for calling. Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. I want to urge your Ondo electorate to go about the election very peacefully.
Okay.
Very, very peacefully. Election is not a do or die thing. But having said that, my major complaint that has become a norm in all our election cycle now is vote buying. Vote buying has become a tradition. You cannot actually ascribe it to one particular political party, whether it is the smallest party or the biggest party. They all indulge in vote buying. The only thing one we say is that as you small in your party, your bargaining power will be small. Then the bigger one, your bargaining power will be big. So to me, the only advice, because it's like a sickness that has no cure again, we will live with it for the now.
Okay.
The only thing I will advise that civil society organization needs to preach to the voters is that you can actually collect this money and still go there in disguise and vote for your candidate of choice. Okay. Because if we keep campaigning, don't buy your vote, don't sell vote, don't buy your vote, the whole campaign seems to be falling in a depth here. So let us even try to strategize differently again. Tell them you can actually sell, but you can still vote for the candidate of your choice tactically. Indeed. Then another concern with civil society organization too, they should stop monitoring election from state capital. They should go to the local government and the wards, the units. They should not rely on opposition party report or the losers report from. They should try and see things firsthand with their own eyes, not staying in, for instance, Sunday state capital, while the other local government, you will assume that you send your men into those wards. At the end of the day, none of them will even be there. Then they will, from their hotel, giving you feedback. Probably most of these reports are from bad loser. Everybody wants to rig each other out. Then at the end, if you are being rigged out, you will start to shout to high heaven that this is what they are doing. Perhaps this is what you two indulge in. They beat you to your own game, you are not shouting. And civil society organizations, because I think they are struggling for acceptability from the public. And they do understand too that when you say, when you try to give your report towards, tinted towards the party that has been defeated, certainly the public will accept your report. Or when you say the truth, this is what actually happened, kudos to INEC, the public will not take it, then your popularity will be shrinking.
Okay, Mr. Afere. Okay, Mr. Afere.
Actually go to the main.
Indeed.
Unit.
Thank you very much, Mr. Afere, because the 2 points you spoke about, one, money, and then this, how widespread the observations of society groups, civil society groups such as Yaga Africa. Cynthia has already spoken on that, but I think it bears for her to comment a bit more in the light of you phoning in on this concern of yours. Cynthia?
To hear him clearly. So the widespread part, I think what I understood from him is how far we are covering the state if we're focusing on one part.
That was his second and main. That was his main point. He spoke about money earlier.
Okay. Yes. Thank you so much. I think I heard from Worry. Thank you so much.
That's right. Afere, Mr. Afere from Worry.
Mr. Afere from Worry. Thank you so much for the comments. Yes, YAG Africa, we deploy a comprehensive observation methodology for elections. And so for the Ondo elections, we have started with observing the pre-elections activities, which is why I mentioned we had long-term observers who are based in every local. So we recruit from local governments. We don't bring people from outside to observe. And so these are individuals who live and work in respective local governments. They were trained and they were observing the activities, including INEX activities, political activities in the pre-election phase, which is why we're able to release 2 reports. Now, on the elections day tomorrow, we are deploying a total of 324 observers. We have 300 stationary. So first, from the 324, the 300 stationary observers are deployed to a 300 polling units, sampled polling units that we have sampled. Our methodology uses statistics and technology because we cannot be in every location. So statistics enables us to draw up a representative sample using the INEX official polling unit list. And so we don't determine where our sample takes us based on what our statistics and technology draws up. We identified 300 polling units, 300 sampled polling units, and recruited observers from around those polling units who were trained. So last week, we trained these observers in the local government. We had a team of trainers that went down to local government to train them. These 300 observers are going to be stationary in their polling units on elections day, where we have trained them and deployed them to. They would observe from the beginning, that is arrival of personnel setup, to the counting of the results, and send us the results from the polling units. Then we would also have 24 roving observers. These 24 will be mobile, so they will be moving in the local government. We have some local government divided into 2 because of the size. So local government that are big, that's why we have 24, more than the number of local governments in the state. They would also send us reports from what they observe as they roll. After the election voting, we would also have observers in the LGA results collation centers. These observers observe collation from commencement till the end, and then they send us the results also from the collation center, which is why YAG Africa is the only group so far that can make authoritative statements on the results. And because with our methodology, we can verify or confirm if the official results announced by the Electoral Commission is a true reflection of the vote cast at the polling unit. And you may ask us how. We don't give exact number. Remember, we're not in the exact location, but we give estimates. And the idea is we give an estimate within a narrow range. If the official result announced for each party falls within that range, then we can confirm. But if it falls outside, then we raise questions around it, which was why we raised some questions in Edo. If you remember, if you followed Edo, but there are some elections where the results fell within, and we've said INEC, the result announced by INEC reflects the votes cast. So we don't know what tomorrow will be like, but this is the plan for tomorrow.
So you do have your own methodologies because Mr. Afere had said that listening, waiting for opposition or the non-opposition to come and make reports to you, which you then regurgitate. That is not the case at all.
No. Okay. We have our own people.
Okay.